The walls of Terra tremble under the weight of the galaxy's end. A legionnaire stands amidst fire and ruin, facing the death of an age and the birth of something far worse. April 18th, 14M31. The sky above Terra burns. Not with sunlight, but with the fire of dying ships. Hulks of metal the size of cities fall through the atmosphere like judgment itself, their engines screaming as they break apart. You can see them from the walls of the Imperial Palace, falling stars that never grant wishes. My name is Brother Sergeant Livius Kale, VII Legion, Imperial Fists. For 7 months I have not seen the sun. There is no sun left to see. We hold the Eternity Wall Gate, the last line between the traitor legions and the Golden Throne. There is no retreat. There is no surrender. Dorn's orders are simple: endure. The ground beneath us quakes as another orbital strike hits the outer battlements. The Vox channels are a storm of screams, reports, prayers, and static. Somewhere beyond the smoke and lightning, the War Master's armies gather, tens of millions strong. And we are 30,000. They come at dawn. If you can call it dawn, when the light comes from burning ships and orbital bombardment. I stand atop the wall, bolter maglock to my hip, surveying the no-man's land below, a wasteland of ash, metal, and corpses. The traitors have been bombarding for days, pounding the palace walls until they glow red-hot. Now the guns fall silent. That is how you know they are about to advance. Brother Kale, comes a voice through the Vox. It's Captain Valen, my commanding officer. His voice is steady, too steady. They're forming ranks. Sons of Horus, iron warriors, world eaters, all of them, prepare your men. Understood, I reply. There is a pause, then he adds, Dorn is watching, make him proud. That single phrase does more to steady my heart than any armor could. The men of my squad take position behind the crenellations, 9 warriors, their armor scarred and scorched, eyes like iron. Brother Arcturus, my heavy bolter specialist, blesses his weapon with the sign of the Aquila. Brother Helion murmurs a prayer for his fallen sons back on Inwit. None of us believe we will live through the day. The bombardment stops. Silence. Then the world roars. The first wave surges forward, traitor Astartes, mutants and corrupted engines. The very air shakes with their war cries. From above, the sky is torn apart by drop pods screaming down like meteors. They slam into the ground and burst open, disgorging Chaos Marines painted in the livery of old brotherhoods, sons who once fought beside us. Fire, I shout. Bolters thunder in unison. A storm of mass-reactive shells tears through the first ranks, reducing flesh and ceramite to mist. The walls tremble as las beams and plasma bolts hammer against the battlements. Still, we hold. Still, we endure. A red-armored figure charges through the smoke, chainsword raised, eyes like bloodied suns. A world eater. His jump pack ignites, sending him hurtling toward the wall. Brother Arcturus tracks him, fires, and turns him into a crimson mist midair. Keep your lines tight, I bellow over the din. Do not let them breach. But they keep coming. Gods, they never stop coming. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. In the siege, time is meaningless. The air is filled with smoke, ozone, and the stench of death. Our ammunition counters run low. The auspex flickers with heat signatures climbing the wall. Close assault, I shout. The first of them reaches the parapet, iron warriors, climbing with magnetized gauntlets. I draw my chainsword and meet them blade to blade. Sparks fly as ceramite crashes against ceramite. One of them hisses through his helm's vox grill. Your emperor dies today, brother. I drive my blade through his throat. Then I'll see him in death. The body tumbles back into the fire below. More follow, too many. They swarm the walls like ants. Arcturus, heavy bolter, overheats and locks. He switches to his combat blade without hesitation. I see him fall moments later, struck by a chain axe wielded by a madman howling Horus' name. Something inside me breaks, but there's no time to grieve. A thunderous explosion shatters the battlement to my left. Rubble rains down, crushing two of my men. The air fills with the screech of demonic engines, war dogs, small chaos knights striding through the breach. Their autocannons rake the wall, tearing through stone and steel alike. Pull back, I command. Fall to secondary positions. We retreat through the smoke, down a stairwell slick with ash and blood. The walls shudder with every impact. Behind us, the enemy pours through the gap, howling like beasts unleashed. We fall back to the inner gatehouse, a cathedral of steel and stone. The doors here are 3 meters thick, reinforced by adamantium. For now, they hold. Captain Valen's voice crackles over the vox. The outer parapet is lost. Hold the inner defense line. Reinforcements are en route. I know what that means. No reinforcements are coming. We brace for the next wave. The wounded lie in rows along the floor, some still breathing, others whispering prayers to the Emperor. Helion kneels beside them, reciting the litany of endurance. His voice trembles but does not falter. A young legionary approaches me, Brother Joram, barely out of initiation when the heresy began. His armor is cracked, one lens shattered. Sergeant, the enemy has breached the eastern flank. Then we'll seal it, I reply. He nods once, fear flickering behind his eyes, then disappears into the smoke. Minutes later the ground shakes, screams echo through the voxnet. Joram's channel goes silent. The inner gate detonates inward. The blast throws me across the hall. Through the smoke stride the sons of Horus, armor the color of sea foam and rot, their eyes glowing sickly green. At their head walks a giant in cataphractii plate, his axe dripping with blood and oil. Hold the line, I shout, raising my bolter. They crash against us like a tidal wave. I fire until the weapon overheats, then draw my sword. Every strike is a prayer, every kill a denial of despair. The giant swings his axe at me, cleaving the air in two. I duck beneath it, roll, and drive my blade between the plates of his armor. He laughs, a sound like gravel sliding in a tomb. He grabs me by the throat, lifts me effortlessly. You think your walls will save you, he growls. Horus will walk through them as through smoke. I jam a cracked grenade into his chest cavity, then let him choke on it. The explosion tears us both apart. When I wake, I am half buried under rubble. My armor is cracked, my helm shattered. Around me, silence, save for the distant thunder of artillery. I drag myself free, leaving a trail of blood and oil. The hall is gone, so are my men. Through the dust I see a flicker of gold, a single imperial banner still standing amid the ruin. It flutters weakly, illuminated by the firelight. I limp toward it, falling to my knees. My hands tremble as I touch the cloth. We have lost the outer wall, we have lost the gatehouse. But Terra still stands. And as long as I draw breath, it will continue to stand. Beyond the shattered ramparts, the horns of the War Master sound again. The second wave gathers, Titans march, the air tastes of iron and smoke. I reload my bolter, blood dripping from my fingers. Above me the heavens burn. And somewhere beyond the walls and the blood and the ruin sits the Emperor, silent, unseen, and unyielding. The siege has only just begun. The morning comes without light. Terra's sun hides behind the clouds of smoke and orbital wreckage, and even the light of the heavens feels choked, strangled by war. The air tastes of oil and promethium, and every breath carries the echo of thunder from the lines outside the palace walls. I am alive, I should not be. Brother Sergeant Livius Cale of the VII Legion. What remains of him? I awaken to the hiss of my damaged respirator and the pain of broken ribs grinding beneath my armor plates. Around me, the shattered hall of the inner gate lies buried beneath the corpses of brothers and traitors alike. The battle from the night before has ended, but only in the sense that the dead no longer scream. There is movement nearby, a servitor's dying twitch, a hand twitching on a bolter grip. I crawl toward the sound, dragging myself through the dust until I find Brother Hellion slumped against a broken column, one leg gone, his armor blackened. His eyes flicker as I approach. "Kale," he whispers through the Vox grill, voice thin as air. "You lived." "Barely," I manage, checking his vitals. His gene seed beacons still pulse weakly. "You fought well, brother. The Emperor saw you." He smiles faintly, a crack in his blood-caked lips. "Then I hope he remembers me when the walls fall." I open my mouth to deny it, but the words die before they leave my throat. The walls will fall. I know this. We all know this. It is not a question of if, only when. The ground shakes again, distant but deliberate. Heavy footfalls, the kind that make the stone itself tremble. Titans, perhaps, or the advance of siege engines the Iron Warriors favor. "Rest now," I tell Hellion. He shakes his head weakly. "I will die standing, like Dorn taught." He tries to rise, but his ruined leg refuses. I grip his arm and pull him up beside me, letting him lean against the pillar. We stand together, surrounded by the corpses of brothers, two shadows of what once was a company. Hours later, the Vox channels flicker back to life, distorted, half-drowned by static. I catch fragments. Eastern parapet breached, Loyalist line collapsing near the Lion's Gate. We need reinforcements. Reinforcements. The word has lost all meaning. Every man still breathing is a reinforcement now. Captain Valen's voice cuts through the noise. "Attention all remaining units of the VII. Dorn commands that the Eternity Wall must not fall. The Emperor himself remains within. You are his shield. You will not yield." Static swallows the rest, but those words are enough. Hellion and I begin to move. We salvage ammunition from the fallen, reload our bolters, and make our way through the ruined corridors of the palace's outer defense bastions. The ceilings leak smoke. The walls glow with residual heat from plasma strikes. Once, these corridors were lined with murals of the Great Crusade. Now, they are blackened ruins. We meet others as we go, wounded Imperial fists, a few auxilia, even some ragged Sisters of Silence guiding a convoy of refugees deeper into the palace interior. Their faces are blank, eyes hardened like glass. They speak no words, yet their movements are a prayer in motion. When one of the younger auxilia soldiers sees the sigil of the VII on my shoulder, he salutes shakily. "The Astartes still hold?" he asks, as if afraid of the answer. "For now," I reply. He nods, swallowing hard. His hands tremble as he clutches his las rifle. "They say the traitors are at the sanctum walls now, that the Primarch himself—" "Stop," I cut him off. "Rumors will break us faster than their guns." He says nothing more. He doesn't need to. The look in his eyes tells me he already knows how close we are to the end. By midday, we reach the secondary redoubt, a makeshift strongpoint where remnants of several shattered squads have gathered. The walls here are thicker, reinforced with adamantium and the remains of destroyed vehicles. It is less a fortress and more a tomb waiting for its lid to close. Captain Valen stands at the center, his armor scorched but unbroken. His helm rests at his feet, revealing a face carved from stone, lined by exhaustion. When he sees me, his eyes widen in recognition. "Kale, Emperor be praised, I thought you were gone." "Almost," I reply. "What remains of my squad is gone, Hellion lives barely." Valen nods grimly. "You've done your duty. We're down to a fraction of the original garrison. Reports say the sons of Horus have breached the southern causeway. The Blood Angels and the Custodes hold there now, but they can't hold forever." He pauses, glancing toward the massive steel door behind him. "Dorn has ordered all surviving companies to consolidate around the Eternity Wall. That is where the final defense will stand." "Then that's where we'll go," I say. Not yet. We hold this line until the evacuation convoys pass. There are still civilians being moved from the lower districts. I look around the redoubt, at the handful of exhausted warriors preparing for another onslaught. We won't last an hour if they come again. He meets my gaze. Then we will last an hour, that is enough. The bombardment resumes at dusk. A sound like the end of creation, hundreds of guns firing in rhythm, pounding the outer walls to molten dust. Every impact shakes the redoubt like a living thing. Ceiling fragments rain down in sheets. We hunker behind fortifications, listening to the thunder grow closer. Then silence again, always the same pattern. "Here they come," Valen murmurs. And they do. Through the smoke stride the Iron Warriors once more, grim, relentless, their armor patterned in yellow and black hazard stripes. Siege specialists. Their formation is precise, mechanical, and unstoppable. Behind them lumbers something vast, a siege engine that walks on 8 massive legs, its weapon mounts glowing red with heat. "Target the walker," Valen commands. We fire everything we have. Crack missiles streak through the air, lascannon beams carve through the dark. The first 2 missiles detonate harmlessly against its void shields. The third finds a crack in the plating, blowing off one of its limbs, but the machine continues forward, shrieking like a dying beast. "Hellion, take the right flank." He limps forward, dragging himself behind cover, firing bursts from his bolter. The Iron Warriors respond in kind, their shots impossibly accurate. One round catches him in the chest, sending him spinning to the ground. I run to him, ignoring Valen's shouted orders. His armor is split open. Gene fluid seeps from the wound like molten silver. "Stay with me," I shout. His helm turns toward me, lenses dimming. "You still believe we'll win?" "Yes," I lie. He exhales once, a sound almost like laughter, and then he is gone. Something in me breaks again. I rise from cover, firing until my bolter's barrel glows white. Every shot finds a target. I barely notice the round striking my own armor, the warnings flashing across my HUD. The Iron Warriors advance steadily, emotionless. One of them raises a heavy weapon, Volkite charger, pattern unknown, and fires. The beam hits Valen square in the chest. His torso vaporizes. I dive behind the wreckage of a Rhino tank, smoke and heat washing over me. My Vox is dead. My ammo counter reads almost 0. Around me, the redoubt dissolves into chaos. The defenders are being cut down one by one. And then, something immense fills the air with shadow. From above, a silhouette falls from the sky, a golden blur, wreathed in flame and light. It lands atop the walker, driving it into the ground with the force of a meteor. A flash of white and gold fills the air, and for a moment I forget to breathe. Through the fire strides a figure, unlike any mortal thing. Crimson wings, armor bright as dawn. Sanguinius, the angel himself. The surviving traitors falter. Even the Iron Warriors hesitate. Sanguinius raises his sword, its edge glowing with light that cuts through the smoke like the sun through storm clouds. "By the will of the Emperor," his voice echoes, not through Vox but through the air itself, "this world shall not fall." Then he moves. What follows is not battle, it is revelation. He cuts through the enemy like divine fire, his blade singing, his movements too fast to follow. The Iron Warriors scatter, some turning to flee, others frozen in awe or terror. In moments, the assault collapses. When it is done, silence returns. Only the crackle of burning wreckage remains. Sanguinius turns, his wings folding slowly. His eyes meet mine through the haze. For a heartbeat, I feel seen, not as a warrior, not as a soldier, but as a soul. He speaks softly, yet his words carry through the ruined hall. "Brother of Dorn, rise. The battle is not yet done. The Emperor still waits for our strength." I kneel, too stunned to reply. But he does not linger. Within moments, the angel takes flight once more, soaring toward the higher walls where the next wave already gathers. And I am left amid the ruins, alone once more, but not without purpose. I gather the remaining few survivors, barely a dozen. Together, we tend to the wounded, salvage what little we can, and prepare to withdraw toward the eternity wall. The enemy's next strike will not take long, and this redoubt is lost. Before leaving, I look one last time at Hellion and Valen's bodies, side by side among the rubble. I touch my helm to my chest in silent salute. "You bought them time," I whisper. "That is more than most could give." Then we march. Through fire, through ruin, through the endless night of Terra. The walls are breaking, piece by piece. But so long as even one of us still stands before the throne, the light of mankind has not yet gone out. The sound of thunder no longer fades. It lives now, constant, eternal, rolling through the bones of Terra like the heartbeat of a dying god. By the time we reach the eternity wall, the air itself has become heavy with ash and despair. The palace towers above us, still unbroken but scarred beyond recognition. Its once golden spires are blackened and cracked, its stained glass melted into rivers of molten color. The walls that were said to outlast time now bleed dust with every impact. I have walked for 3 days through fire and ruin. What remains of my squad follows close behind, 10 men reduced to 3. Brother Valen's command is gone. Brother Hellion's name lingers in my Vox logs like a ghost. Now we are attached to the 356th cohort of the Solar Auxilia, mortals in steel, their courage forged in desperation. They look at us, the Astartes, with awe and exhaustion, as though we are the last pieces of a dream the galaxy is trying to forget. Captain Ravaz of the Auxilia greets us with a salute. His uniform is scorched, his left arm replaced by a bionic rigged from battlefield scrap. "By the throne," he breathes when he sees the yellow of my armor. "The fists still stand." "We endure," I answer. The words feel hollow, but they are all we have left. He gestures toward the immense gates of the eternity wall, kilometers high, carved from ceramite and adamantium, layered with sigils and runes of protection older than memory. Massive cannons bristle along its length, firing in constant rhythm. Beyond those gates lies the Sanctum Imperialis, the heart of mankind. "The angels hold the sky," Ravaz says, voice trembling with reverence. "Sanguinius commands the air defense bastions. Dorn commands the walls. They say Rogel himself hasn't slept in days." "He won't," I reply, "not until this ends." Ravaz nods. "And you, brother, what do you fight for now?" I glance toward the horizon where fire blooms like dawn. For the breath between this moment and the next, for one more heartbeat of Terra. That night the angel descends again. Sanguinius lands upon the parapet above the eternity wall, his wings dimmed, his armor splattered with black blood that burns where it touches the stone. The defenders fall to their knees at his arrival. Even the hardest veterans bow their heads in silence. He does not ask it of them, his very presence commands it. I stand with the others, my knees pressed into the scorched ground, as the angel looks across the battlefield. His face is calm, but his eyes betray the truth, red-rimmed with exhaustion, hollowed by grief. "Brothers," he begins, his voice carried on the Vox amplifiers to every wall and bastion. "The enemy is endless, but so too is our duty. We are not merely holding ground. We are holding the soul of mankind itself. Every hour you buy is a victory eternal." He pauses, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond the horizon where the smoke hides the stars. "Know this, the Emperor watches, and though he may not speak, he has not turned from us. His will endures through you." Then with a motion like the breaking of dawn, his wings unfurl. He turns toward the dark, where the next assault gathers like a storm. "Hold," he says simply, and then he is gone, a blur of gold and crimson into the night sky. At dawn, the traders come again. The bombardment begins hours before the first wave. Massive shells streak across the sky, detonating against the walls in incandescent bursts. The air grows hot. The ground quivers beneath our boots. I hear the screams of the wounded through the vox, a ceaseless chorus that becomes background noise to the slaughter. Then the guns fall silent, and the sky opens. Drop pods, thousands of them, fall like black rain. They impact the killing fields with enough force to shake the walls, each one blooming into a storm of fire and screaming ceramic. From them pour the sons of Horus, the death guard and the word-bearers. The three legions advance together, a tide of corruption and hatred. Beside me, Captain Rivaz makes the sign of the Aquila. His men raise their weapons, forming tight firing ranks behind the cover of the battlements. The air smells of ozone and fear. I draw my bolter, fire at will. The wall becomes a volcano. Thousands of guns unleash at once, cutting into the advancing hordes. Mortals and Astartes fire side by side, turning the no-man's land into a sea of blood and smoke. For every traitor that falls, 3 more take his place. Through the haze I see him, a champion of the sons of Horus, his armor black and green, his helm crowned with horns. He carries a halberd too large for any human hand, and in his other gauntlet the severed head of a loyalist still fresh. He points toward the wall, for Horus. The tide surges forward. They hit the gates like an avalanche. Explosives detonate across the adamantium plates, filling the air with molten light. The ground shakes, cracks appear in the marble beneath our feet. The defenders fire until their weapons melt, then draw blades when the enemy reaches the wall. I leap into the fray as the first of the traitors breach the lower ramparts. The world narrows to a blur of steel and fury. My bolter empties in a heartbeat. My chainsword sings as it cuts through corrupted armor. Each swing is desperate, each motion survival. To my right, Rivaz falls beneath the claws of a Death Guard Terminator. I reach him too late. The traitor crushes his skull beneath an armored boot before I can strike. I tear into the Terminator, my chainsword biting deep, until the blade shatters. I grab his fallen weapon and drive it into his throat. Blood and oil spray across my visor. Another wave crashes in, word-bearers chanting in unholy rhythm. Their dark hymns roll like thunder, shaking the air. I shoot one through the chest, another through the head, but their chanting only grows louder. The mortal auxilia begin to falter, their lines buckling under the psychic pressure. Then light. Blinding, pure, impossible light. The word-bearers scream as it tears through their formation, burning them to ash. From the heavens descends Sanguinius once more, his sword wreathed in fire, his eyes blazing with sorrow and wrath combined. He lands atop the parapet, wings spread wide, his presence alone enough to halt the advance. "Hold," he cries. "Hold, sons of Terra." The defenders rally. Cheers erupt through the vox. Even the wounded rise to fight again. But as the angel cuts through the traitors, I see something I cannot unsee. Blood trails from his armor. His movements, still perfect, still divine, are slower now. Every swing seems to draw more pain from him. When a chain axe catches his wing, tearing through the feathers, the sound that leaves him is not rage, it is grief. He kills the attacker in one motion but staggers as he turns. I reach his side, firing at the advancing word-bearers. "My lord, you are wounded." "It is nothing," he says, but blood drips from his lips. "They cannot be allowed to reach the gate." "We will hold it, my lord, I swear it." He looks at me then, really looks. His gaze pierces through the armor, through the fear, through the exhaustion. "Brother Kale," he says softly, "you are brave, but bravery is not what will save us." "Then what will?" I ask. "Faith." He spreads his wings once more, ignoring the blood streaming from his wounds, and launches himself skyward again. Hours blur into eternity. The traitors fall back, regroup, and return again. each assault weaker than the last but more desperate. Their dead pile high against the wall, forming mountains of corpses that burn when the heavy flamers sweep across them. The Eternity Wall stands, but only barely. Entire sections are cracked open, gaping wounds in the stone. We fight from one ruin to the next, pushing the enemy back by inches, losing friends by the dozen. I lose track of time. I lose track of how many I've killed. The Emperor's name becomes a rhythm on my lips, spoken with each pull of the trigger. When the bombardment ceases once more, I look to the horizon and see the impossible. The sky is red, not with fire but with blood. A shadow moves across the clouds. A titan, vast as a mountain, strides forward, its carapace adorned with the eye of Horus. Its weapons glow with power enough to level continents. Even the angel cannot stop that. The command vox crackles to life. Fall back to tertiary bastions. Protect the inner gate. The enemy brings God engines to the walls. We obey, we always obey. As we retreat, I glance back once more. Amid the smoke, amid the ruins of 1,000 lives, I see Sanguinius kneel beside a fallen custodian. His hand rests on the warrior's helm. His shoulders shake. The angel is crying. And in that moment, I understand. Even the divine bleed. Even angels break. But they still rise. We fall back into the inner sanctum, sealing the great adamantium gates behind us as the first tremors of the Titan's footfalls reach the marble floors. The air smells of ozone and death. The wounded lie in heaps along the corridor, tended by medici who no longer have enough morphia to dull the pain. Brother Kale, I tell myself, you have seen worse. You lie. I find a cracked mirror in the ruins of a chapel and catch my reflection. My armor is torn, my face streaked with black blood. My eyes no longer look human. There is something else there now, something that has seen too much. Outside, the walls shudder again. The Titans have begun their work. The siege of Terra continues. The angel bleeds but still fights. And I, Livius Kale, son of Dorn, swear upon my broken gene seed that I will fight until there is nothing left to fight with. Because we are the wall. And until it falls, we do not. The end of the world sounds like thunder that never fades. It rolls through the bones of the palace, shaking dust from frescoes depicting the Great Crusade. Each tremor feels heavier than the last, each blast closer, until the vibration becomes a constant ache beneath my armor. We are sealed within the inner bastions now, behind the adamantium gates that separate the Eternity Wall from the Sanctum Imperialis. Only the Emperor himself lies beyond those final gates, at the heart of the Golden Throne. Everything outside burns. Everything inside prepares to die. I can still hear the Titans. Their cannons beat like monstrous hearts, each salvo hammering into the outer walls. The air ducts scream from the pressure waves. Every impact turns the massive hinges of the palace doors red with heat. And still, Dorn's orders echo through the Voxnet. Hold! That word has become our universe. There are so few of us left. My name, Brother Sergeant Livius Kale, VII Legion Imperial Fists, means nothing now. I lead 13 men, all that remains of 5 shattered squads. Our armor is cracked and blackened, our bolters patched together from scavenged parts. We are ghosts haunting the last fortress of mankind. When I walk through the corridors of the inner defense ring, I see statues of saints reduced to rubble, marble halls flooded with blood, mosaics of victory drowning in soot. The air smells of iron and incense. Mortals still fight here too, the remnants of the solar auxilia, the custodian guard, the silent sisters. I pass them like a shadow among shadows. They look up at me with hollow eyes, their faces lit by the red glow of emergency lumen strips. A child passes me once, a refugee clutching a shard of a broken Aquila pendant. His eyes meet mine through the shattered visor of my helm. For a moment, I see in him what we are fighting for. Then he is gone, swept away by the tide of evacuees retreating deeper toward the throne. The palace is no longer a bastion. It is a grave being dug in real time. Captain Solon of the Custodian Guard stands beside me at the inner defense ramparts. His golden armor is scarred and blackened, his halberd dull from constant battle. "They have breached the outer causeways," he says quietly. His voice holds no panic, only certainty. "The Eternity Wall will not last another day." I nod. We knew it would come to this. He looks at me with those calm, ageless eyes of his kind. "Do you fear death, son of Dorn?" "No," I answer. "I fear failing to buy enough time." That earns a faint smile. "Good. Then fight as if eternity itself depends on it, because it does." The vox crackles again, faint but unmistakable, Dorn's voice, clipped, precise, carrying the weight of worlds. "Hold fast. Reinforcements from the Saturnine Gate are inbound. The angel bleeds but still fights. The Emperor remains upon the throne. The walls will not fall." There is no emotion in his tone, only conviction. For Dorn, that is enough. Hours later, the bombardment stops. We all freeze. The silence is unnatural, suffocating. It presses against the ears until even the sound of breathing feels too loud. Then through the smoke-choked air, a new sound begins, a slow, heavy rhythm. Voidships. Thousands of them. The traitors are coming again. The gates groan as the first impacts strike, shockwaves rippling through the corridor. Bolter fire answers from our emplacements. Plasma turrets scream to life. The entire defense line erupts in fury as the enemy throws itself once more at the heart of the palace. I fire from my post on the upper parapet, my bolter kicking against my shoulder. Each shot feels like a heartbeat. Each target another life denied to the War Master's cause. The first wave is shattered in minutes. The second follows instantly. But the third carries banners bearing the Eye of Horus itself. They hit like a storm of gods. Sons of Horus Terminators crash through the gates in a burst of smoke and flame. Their armor glows with demonic sigils, their eyes burning green beneath cracked lenses. Behind them stride the Justarin, Horus's chosen, veterans of the Great Crusade, now twisted by betrayal. The custodians charge to meet them. The clash is beyond comprehension, gold against black, light against shadow. Every blow shakes the air. Every death leaves echoes. I wade into the melee, chainsword revving, firing my bolter at point-blank range. A Justarin sergeant lunges at me with a power maul. I parry, duck beneath his swing, and drive my blade between the plates of his gorget. His armor flares with electricity as he falls, dragging me down with him. When I rise, the line is breaking. The enemy presses forward through the breach. "Push them back," I roar, rallying what remains of my men. A mortal officer screams over the vox. "They're inside, inner concourse breached." I cut through two more traitors, my muscles burning, lungs raw from smoke. Above the din, I hear the sound of wings. He comes again. Sanguinius, the angel of Baal. His descent brings silence to both sides for the span of a heartbeat. His armor gleams even through the grime, though the left wing hangs tattered, feathers stained red. When his boots touch the ground, the air seems to steady. The custodians rally, the auxilia cheer, and even my broken bolter feels lighter in my hands. The angel turns to us, his face pale but resolute. "Brothers," he says, his voice carrying through the smoke, "you stand upon the edge of forever. Do not falter." He raises his blade and charges. Where he moves, the enemy dies. Every swing cuts through 2, 3, 5 of the enemy. His sword burns with light that hurts to look upon. Yet I can see the strain with every motion. He bleeds freely now, his armor cracked along the chest. The enemy focuses their fury upon him. Dozens rush forward at once, firing, striking, screaming oaths to Horus. Sanguinius meets them all. And then the impossible happens. One of the Justarin lands a strike. His power maul connects with the angel's ribs. The impact sends him staggering. Blood sprays across the stone. The defenders gasp. I move without thought, firing at the traitor, my rounds tearing through his helm. But the angel has fallen to one knee. He rises again slowly, one hand pressed to his side. His wings flare once more, though one droops like a wounded bird. I am not yet done, he whispers. Then he is aloft again, disappearing into the smoke. We hold what ground we can. Hours pass. The enemy withdraws and returns again and again, each wave weaker but more frenzied. Their hate burns brighter than reason. They are no longer men, they are the echo of damnation. By midnight, the inner causeways are littered with corpses. Rivers of blood flow through marble channels designed once for processions of saints. The wounded moan softly in the dark. Medici run out of bandages, using the torn banners of the Imperium to bind wounds. I walk among them, helmet off, the stale air burning my lungs. A young auxilia soldier grips my arm as I pass. His face is pale, eyes wide with fear. "Sergeant," he gasps, "tell me the Emperor lives." "He does," I say, and this time I do not lie. Because I have felt his presence through the walls, like the hum of eternity, faint but unbroken. Something vast and golden breathes still within the throne room. The boy nods weakly, closing his eyes. His hand goes slack. Later I find Captain Solon again. His armor is dented, his halberd cracked. He stands beside a shattered viewport overlooking the ruins of Terra. The world below burns from pole to pole. The oceans are gone, replaced by storms of ash. He does not turn as I approach. "The angel has fallen back to the upper sanctum," he says quietly. "He cannot hold the air bastions much longer." "Then what remains?" I ask. He gestures toward the horizon. "Only us." Through the window, I can see the Titans still battling in the distance, shapes like walking mountains, their weapons painting the night in fire. Above them, the ships of the traitor fleets orbit low, their bombardments shaking the heavens themselves. "This is the end," Solon says, "and yet look how they burn to reach him. Even in rebellion they fear the Emperor's presence. That fear is our weapon now." He grips his halberd tighter. "When the gates fall, we hold the last corridor. Not one of them reaches the throne." I nod, "Not one." The following day, if it can still be called day, the walls break. The Titans breach the Eternity Gate. A blast louder than thought itself tears through the bastion, shattering the last of our defenses. Entire sections of the palace collapse inward. Dust and light flood the corridors. The final defense begins. We form ranks in the Hall of Sacrifices, a chamber so vast its ceiling vanishes into darkness. Once, it was lined with statues of the Emperor's victories. Now it is filled with barricades, trenches, and the broken bodies of the dead. The first wave crashes through the ruins of the gate. Traitors pour in like a black tide. We meet them with bolter, blade, and flame. The fighting becomes chaos. No formation, no command, only survival. At one point, I find myself beside a custodian. His armor gleams faintly despite the soot, his spear broken in half. He turns to me, blood running down his chin. "They cannot pass," he says simply. "They won't, I promise." He smiles once, then charges into the mass of traitors and vanishes beneath them. The air thickens with smoke and screams. The marble floor cracks beneath the weight of the fallen. I fight until my arms feel like iron. Then silence again. For a moment I think it is over, but then I hear it. A voice deep, mocking. It echoes through the ruins like a god laughing. I look toward the broken gates and see them, black-armored giants, their pauldrons bearing the sigil of the eye. At their center walks a figure I know instantly. First Captain Abaddon of the Sons of Horus. He strides through the smoke, his armor gleaming, his sword wreathed in energy. Around him, the air distorts from the raw power of the warp. He looks upon the battlefield with contempt. "This world belongs to Horus now," he says. "I raise my bolter. You'll have to kill every one of us first." He smiles. That was always the plan. The next moments blur into madness. Abaddon charges, cutting through defenders as if they are shadows. His weapon sings, each swing a storm of destruction. I fire until my bolter clicks empty, then meet him blade to blade. The force of his strike sends me sprawling. My armor cracks, my vision fades, but I rise again. We fight amid the bodies of the fallen. Sparks light the dark. His strength is beyond anything human. Every strike feels like a hammer blow from a titan. I parry, dodge, strike again and again. My blade breaks. I seize a fallen spear, drive it toward his chest. It glances off his armor. He laughs, a sound like thunder. "You are strong, fist, but not enough." "Maybe not," I rasp, blood filling my mouth. "But we don't break." Then the ceiling above us splits open. Light pours in, golden, blinding. The angel returns. Sanguinius descends like vengeance itself, crashing into the ground between us. The shockwave knocks me backward. His eyes burn like twin suns, his sword aflame. Abaddon halts, his grin fading. "Abaddon," Sanguinius says, voice steady but trembling with restrained fury, "you have gone too far." Abaddon snarls, "You should have stayed with your father, Angel. Now you'll die for him instead." Their blades meet. The sound is beyond mortal hearing, a clash that shakes the stones of the palace, that makes even the titans pause. I can only watch, awestruck and broken, as two demigods fight beneath the burning heavens. Blood spills, red and black, gold and oil. Each blow leaves scars on the world itself. When it ends, both stand bleeding, but only one still breathes. Abaddon retreats, dragging himself toward the shadows, his laughter echoing even as he vanishes into the smoke. Sanguinius collapses to one knee, his sword slipping from his grasp. I rush to his side. "My lord!" He raises a hand. "No, tend to the gate, it must not fall." "But you—" He smiles faintly, blood staining his lips. "I will endure for now." And for the first time, I realize, he no longer believes he will survive this war. Outside, the heavens roar again. The bombardment resumes, closer than ever. The ground quakes, the air screams. And deep within the palace, the throne begins to tremble. Next, Part 506, The Emperor's Shadow. There comes a moment in every war when sound itself becomes meaningless. When the roar of cannon fire, the screams of the dying, and the crashing of collapsing stone all merge into a single endless vibration that eats through the nerves and burns the soul. That is what the siege has become. No day, no night, only the constant storm. We do not speak anymore unless we must. The air is filled with smoke so thick it tastes of metal and ash. The walls that once gleamed gold are now black and pitted. The banners of the Emperor hang in tatters, their purity reduced to soot-streaked reminders of what once was. And yet we are still here. Brother Sergeant Livius Cale, VII Legion. 13th Company, if such things even matter anymore. We have fallen back to the sanctum's antechamber, the very last defensive perimeter before the golden throne itself. Beyond the next gate lies the Emperor. Behind us, only silence and faith. Before us, the howling dark. I have seen too much to dream of victory. Now I fight only to delay the inevitable. The air trembles with the impact of shells. Each detonation sends dust raining from the ceiling. The light is dim and orange, filtered through clouds of smoke and incense that never clear. I pass through the rows of wounded lying on stretchers against the wall. They whisper prayers, words half-learned and broken by pain. Medici stride between them, faces pale, hands slick with blood. In the center of the hall stands the angel. Sanguinius leans upon his blade like a pilgrim resting on a staff. His wings droop. His armor, once radiant, is cracked, burned, and weeping blood from unseen wounds. But his eyes, they still shine. He is speaking quietly with Captain Solon of the Custodes when I approach. Solon nods, face grim, and departs toward the gate. The angel turns to me. "Brother Cale," he says softly. "I kneel, my lord." "Rise," he says. His voice is faint but warm. "You've stood longer than many of your kin. You will stand a little longer still." I obey, though my knees ache and my armor groans. He studies me with weary eyes. "Do you still believe in him?" I do not hesitate, always. A small smile touches his lips. "Then keep that flame alive. Soon we may all need its light." He turns away then, walking slowly toward the gate that leads to the inner sanctum. For a moment, he looks so fragile, so human. And yet, when he passes beneath the great arch, the lumen strips flicker as if bowing in reverence. An hour later, the enemy strikes again. This time the walls do not shake, they shatter. The Gate of Bones, our final barricade before the throne, bursts inward under the impact of the traitor Titans' siege cannons. The blast hurls me from my feet. The world becomes a blur of smoke and fire. When I rise, my left pauldron is gone, my arm numb. Through the haze, I see shapes moving dark, hulking, inhuman. The sons of Horus, the word-bearers, the world-eaters, a tide of madness crashing into sanctity. Our counterfire answers instantly. Bolters, plasma, the roar of lascannons. The air fills with tracers and screams. "Hold the line," Solon's voice cuts through the chaos. "For the throne, for Terra." We form up, shoulder to shoulder, as the enemy floods through the breach. The custodians move like living gold amidst the firestorm, their blades sweeping arcs of light through the dark. I join the line, firing until my bolter overheats. I tear a weapon from a fallen foe and keep firing. When I run out of ammunition, I draw my chainsword and charge. The fighting in the antechamber defies description. It is not battle, it is the end of reason. Demons claw their way through cracks in reality, shrieking hymns of hunger. Mortals turn upon mortals, their minds broken by the warp. One moment I am fighting a world eater with a chain axe, the next a creature with too many mouths. Each swing of my blade is answered by a scream, a spurt of black blood, a flash of pain. I lose count of how many times I am struck. I lose track of where I am. At some point, my helmet is torn away, and I breathe the foul air of the warp unfiltered. I see things that no human should see, ghosts in the smoke, faces whispering from the walls, eyes in the shadows watching with infinite patience. Through it all, one thought sustains me. The Emperor must not fall. That thought becomes my anchor, my armor, my prayer. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. Time ceases to mean anything. The enemy pushes us back step by step. The bodies pile higher than barricades. Even the custodians begin to falter. Then through the chaos, I see him again. Sanguinius stands atop the dais before the final gate. His wings flare wide despite the blood soaking them. He raises his sword and light floods the chamber. The demons shriek and recoil, their forms unraveling under that radiant power. For an instant, it is as if dawn has come again to Terra. He strides forward, cutting a path through the tide. "Back," he commands. "Fall behind me, the Emperor waits." We obey, we always obey. I drag a wounded auxilia sergeant away from the front line. Around me, the remnants of my brothers form a defensive ring. Then the angel turns to the sealed gate, the final one, leading to the throne itself. He places his bloodied hand upon its surface. It opens. I glimpse only light beyond, pure gold blinding. And then it closes behind him. For the first time in days, the noise fades. The warp screams lessen. Even the enemy seems to hesitate, as if something vast and unseen has shifted. Captain Solon exhales slowly. He's gone to his father. To fight Horus, I say. Solon nods. To end it. The words hang heavy in the air. The silence does not last. Within moments, the traitors surge again, word-bearers chanting liturgies of damnation, their sorcerers summoning storms of warp fire. The custodians form a phalanx, shields raised. Hold, Solon bellows, voice hoarse. Do not let them through. We meet them once more. The walls of the antechamber become a slaughterhouse. At one point, a shell detonates nearby, collapsing a section of the ceiling. I am buried beneath debris, half-conscious, my lungs screaming for air. I claw my way out through ash and rubble, only to see Solon impaled by a demon's talon. He does not cry out. He tears the creature's arm free and drives his halberd through its skull before falling to his knees. I reach him too late. His eyes meet mine. There is peace there. Protect the throne, he whispers. Then the light fades from him. I rise, weapon trembling in my hands, and do as he asked. Eventually, the traitors break through even our last stand. I fall back through the corridors leading to the throne's antechamber. The walls glow from the heat of the bombardment outside. Every step echoes with the ghosts of those who have died defending these halls. The Vox is filled with static. The fleet above is silent. The ground shakes constantly, like the heartbeat of a dying god. When I reach the final door, the one that leads directly into the throne room, it is sealed shut. The sound from beyond is deafening. Thunder screams, the clash of gods. And then nothing. A stillness so complete it feels wrong. Moments later, a light seeps from the cracks in the door, blinding, golden, pure. I fall to my knees. Something vast passes through me, an emotion beyond words, hope, grief, awe, fear. I realize what has happened. The duel is done. The doors open. The air that flows out is warm and heavy with ozone. I step inside, blinking against the brilliance. At first I can see nothing, then slowly the scene takes shape. The throne, the great machine of gold and light, its spires reaching into infinity. The emperor upon it, vast and still, his armor cracked, his flesh burned with the radiance of his own power. And before him, Sanguinius. The angel lies motionless at the foot of the throne, his wings spread wide like a fallen sun. His sword lies beside him broken. His face is calm, serene, as if asleep. I fall to my knees again, unable to breathe. Beyond him, upon the steps leading to the dais, lies another figure, Horus. What remains of him, at least. His armor is shattered, his form burned and half unmade by the emperor's wrath. Even in death, his expression is one of sorrow twisted by pride. The air still hums with the residue of their battle. I do not move for a long time. Eventually, I hear footsteps. Dorn enters, his armor torn, his face pale with exhaustion. He stops when he sees the bodies, his jaw tightening. By the throne, he whispers, he did it. He moves to the angel first, kneeling beside him. His hand trembles as he closes Sanguinius's eyes. Then he looks up toward the emperor. What has he become? He murmurs. I rise unsteadily. He saved us. Dorn's gaze meets mine. At what cost? Neither of us has an answer. We begin the work of fortifying what remains. The traitor forces, leaderless and broken, are retreating. The palace still stands, though the world around it is ruin. But I cannot shake the image of the throne, of the emperor sitting motionless, his light pulsing faintly through the machine that now binds him. He breathes still, but he does not move. I realize with a weight that crushes the heart that this is victory. Not triumph, not glory, only survival. And survival in the Imperium is never merciful. The days blur after that. The loyalists reclaim the surface. The traitor legions flee into the warp. The war ends in silence. I see Dorn only once more before I am reassigned to the inner guard. He stands before the throne, watching the still figure upon it. He will not rise again, he says, but he will never die. That is his punishment and ours. I bow my head, then we will keep watch. He nods once, until the end. Years later, I still dream of that light, of standing before the throne as the Emperor's power filled the chamber like a rising sun. Sometimes I hear a whisper within it. Not words, not commands, just a presence. A reminder that he is still there, watching, guiding, enduring. Even in silence, he remains the Emperor. Outside, Terra rebuilds, but the scars never fade. The palace remains half in ruin, half in gold. The loyal dead are entombed within its foundations, their names carved into the walls. Every night I walk the same corridor leading to the throne room. I pause before the sealed gates. I kneel. And I remember. The sound of thunder, the gleam of golden wings, the courage of men who stood when the stars themselves fell. I remember the siege. And I remember that in those final hours, when the world itself trembled, mankind did not yield. Because we could not. Because behind us stood the Emperor. And even as his body was broken, his will burned brighter than the sun. Dawn does not come to Terra anymore. The sun is veiled by the smoke of 10,000 pyres that never stop burning. The sky above the cradle of mankind is gray and bruised, a scarred memory of what light used to look like. From the spires of the imperial palace, one can see nothing but ruins stretching beyond the horizon, broken cathedrals, cratered hives, oceans turned to ash. And yet somehow it feels quiet. I stand upon the wall of the Eternity Gate, the same gate that once trembled under the wrath of Titans, and I can hear the faint hum of the throne through the stone beneath my boots. It is not sound so much as presence. The same steady pulse that has not ceased since that day, the day he was bound to the machine that will never let him rest. The Emperor endures. But the man I once was does not. Brother Sergeant Livius Cale, Imperial Fist, Siege of Terra veteran. That is what the records will say. But the truth feels smaller. I am one of countless broken remnants, soldiers, priests, refugees, all of us orbiting the light of a dying god. It has been years since the siege ended, years since Horus fell. The palace still rebuilds, though half its foundations are now mausoleums. New walls rise where the old ones crumbled, but for every brick laid, there is a memory buried beneath it. Everywhere I walk, ghosts follow. The marble floors still bear the cracks where custodians made their last stand. The golden arches are scorched black by demon fire, and in the quiet moments between shifts, I swear I can hear the echoes of bolter fire in the distance, like the palace itself remembers. They call this peace, but there is no peace, only the silence left behind when the screaming stops. Dorn has changed. I see it in the way he walks, his movements slower, heavier, though his eyes are still sharp. The Primarch of Stone, they call him, but even stone erodes. He speaks less now. The fire that once burned so bright behind his calm words is dimmed, replaced by something colder, resolve without warmth. When he addresses the surviving Imperial Fists, his voice carries through the vast halls of the rebuilt fortifications. The walls stand, he says simply, and as long as they stand, so will we. There is no triumph in his tone, only duty. We kneel as one, not out of celebration, but remembrance, for every brother who did not rise again, for the angel who bled his last in the shadow of the throne. Afterward, Dorn stands alone for a long time, gazing toward the sealed gate that leads into the Sanctum Imperialis. His hand rests briefly on the wall. Perhaps he feels what I feel, that faint, unending vibration that hums from within, the pulse of the Emperor's will. He says nothing, he never does, but I see it in his eyes. He too hears the whisper that has replaced his voice. I am assigned to the throne guard now. Our duty is simple. We stand. Day and night we hold the last corridor before the Emperor's presence, silent and unmoving. We are the last wall of flesh between him and the universe. There is no sleep within these halls, no conversation, only the sound of the machine that sustains him, the rhythmic surge of power conduits, the faint hiss of incense, the hum of energy fields older than empires. The golden throne dominates the sanctum. Its light is eternal, but not comforting. It burns too brightly to be gentle. To stand before it for too long is to feel one's mind stripped bare, every sin and thought laid open before the gaze of divinity. Some cannot bear it. They are reassigned or they die silently where they stand, their hearts simply stopping. I remain, not out of strength, but because I no longer know how to do anything else. At times, I think I see movement within the light. A silhouette, vast golden human. The shape of the Emperor himself. But it is only the machine shifting, the power conduits feeding his body, the shadows of eternity playing tricks on the eyes. Still I bow every time. Because even if his flesh no longer moves, his presence fills everything. It presses upon the mind like gravity. It is impossible to stand within that chamber and doubt. He is not dead. He is not gone. He is simply becoming something else. The priests say he speaks to them. The high lords of Terra claim to receive his will through visions, through dreams, through the faintest impulses that ripple through the astronomicon, the psychic beacon that guides humanity through the void. Perhaps they are right, perhaps he does speak. But he has never spoken to me. And yet sometimes in the quiet I feel a thought that is not my own, a weight upon my soul, gentle and terrible at once. It is not language, not sound, just an understanding. A reminder. Endure. It comes to me when exhaustion takes hold, when the air reeks of incense and oil, when the hum of the throne feels like thunder in my skull. That single word drifts through my mind, and I know it is him. Because who else could it be? Outside the sanctum, the Imperium rises again, an empire of mourning and fire. The high lords decree the great scouring. The traitor legions are hunted across the stars, their worlds burned, their names erased from record. The sons of the Emperor turn against their fallen brothers with righteous fury. But even as the galaxy burns anew, I cannot shake the truth that gnaws at me. The victory was hollow. The great crusade is over. The dream of unity is dead. All that remains is survival. And the Imperium, his Imperium, will turn that survival into religion. Already the priests of the ecclesiarchy gather in the lower halls, chanting litanies to his name. They call him the God Emperor now. They build altars where blood still stains the stone, and their hymns echo through the corridors like thunder. We, the warriors who saw him bleed, know better. We know he is not a god. He is something greater and worse than that. But I no longer correct them.